12:10 is midi 10 and not midi heure 10. Bonjour à tous, j'espère que vous allez bien. In this video, we are going to learn how to tell the time in French. And in order to do so, we are going to divide the clock in 4 parts. The minutes up to 34, the minutes 35, 40, 45, 50 and 55, the minutes in between and o'clock. So let's start. First, we are going to concentrate on the minutes up to 34. Here it's very straightforward. If the minutes are between 1 and 34, we simply say the number you see for the hours, followed by the word heure, and by the number you see for the minutes. For example, 07:10 will be 7h10. 11:25 will be 11h25. 14:12 will be 14h12. And 20:33 will be 20h33. Now, don't forget that as seen previously, 15 and 30 have special names. 15 is écart. 30 is et demi or 30. For example, 13:15 is 13h15. 18:30 is 18h30 or 18h30. We also saw that 1 a.m. is 1 heure and 9 p.m. is 21 heures. For example, 1:05 is 1h05. 21:17 is 21h17. And finally, we saw that midday is midi and midnight is minuit. But because they are not numbers, they can't be followed by the word heure. So for example, 12:10 is midi 10 and not midi heure 10. 24:15 is minuit et quart and not minuit heure et quart. Now, you have probably realized that so far I have not used the word minute. In French, we rarely use it. So we don't say 9h10, but we would prefer to say 9h10. However, it is not wrong to use the word minute at the end of the time, but it must be used with et. Et is placed just after the word heure. This is why I said 9h10. Great! Now let's have a look at how we can tell the time when the minutes are either 35, 40, 45, 50 or 55. Here we do things a bit differently. First, remember that we have previously learned that they have special names. 35 is called -25 and not 35. 40 is -20 and not 40. 45 is called -le-quart and not 45. 50 is called -10 and not 50, and 55 is called -5 and not 55. We already know that moins means minus. Now, you might be wondering why we would say -25 and not 35, for example. And the reason is simple. When the minutes are 35, 40, 45, 50 or 55, we consider it is the next hour minus the remaining minutes to get to the next hour. In other words, when we say the time, we start by adding 1 hour to the actual time. Then we use the word heure followed by the name of the minutes. Let's have a look at examples to fully understand that. If the time is 06:55, I'll add 1 hour to the time, so I will say 7, not 6. Then I use the word heure and the name of the minutes 55, which is -5. As a result, to say 6:55, I'll say 7h -5, which translates as 7 hours minus 5 minutes. Because indeed, when it is 6:55, there are 5 minutes left to get to 7 a.m. 10:50 will be 11h-10. 11:45 will be midi moins le quart. 24:40 will be 1h moins 20, and 4:35 will be 5h moins 25. Great! Now let's see the minutes in between 35 and 40, 40 and 45, 45 and 50, 50 and 55, and also 55 and 60. Here it's very simple. There is no +1 and minus. We will proceed the same way as what we did for the minutes up to 34. This means that I would simply say the number I see for the hours and the minutes. Let's see some examples. 10:47 will be 10h47. 15:38 will be 15h38. And 22:51 will be 22h51. When the minutes are between 55 and 59, we actually have the choice between simply reading what we see, as we have just done, or adding an hour to the actual time and using the word minus, moins. So for 14:58, I can either say 14h58 or 15h moins 2. For 12:56, I can say midi 56 or 13h moins 4. The reason for being allowed to use the +1 minus way is that everyone can count backwards from 5 to 1. But we don't do it for the minutes in between 35 and 40, 40 and 45, 45 and 50, or 50 and 55, as it might take a long time to understand the actual time if we were to use the +1 minus rule. Now, we are going to see how to tell the time when it is o'clock. And here again, it is quite simple. When it is o'clock, there are no minutes. So we simply say the number we see for the hours and the word heure. For example, 7 o'clock is 7h, 10 o'clock is 10h. And because midday and midnight in French can't be followed by the word heure, I'll simply say midi for 12 o'clock or minuit for midnight. During this lesson, you might have heard